What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to Talkin Sports with Jake. Hope all doing well. So let's backtrack to this weekend. Hope everyone had a good weekend and had a nice Memorial Day today. So in Game 2 between Dallas and Edmonton, Dallas wins 3-1. They get 2 in the third period, and they pick up a win. Jake Andre, a very nice game with 28 saves. Dallas picks up the win to make that series tie 1 game apiece. Then Sunday comes along, and the Rangers beat the Florida Panthers 5-4. In overtime to win, I take a 2-1 series lead. That was an incredible game. The Rangers and Florida went back and forth. It was 2-2 at the end of the first period. Florida scored first early on in the game. The Rangers got 2 to take the lead, and then all of a sudden Florida tied it. Rangers got 2 in the second period. They got the one shorthanded goal from Goodrow. And then Lafreniere had 2 beautiful goals in that game, one in the first and the even better one in the second period. In the fourth lead, but then Florida ties it in the third, sent overtime, but then the Rangers get the goal. Ryan Lang kind of threw it on net from the point. He was right that corner of the blue line and deflects off Alex Wemberg in front for the game-winning goal. And Igor Stroker had an incredible game. He had 34 saves in that one. Rangers honestly did not even play that well. They were sloppy throughout the game. A lot of bad turnovers, not only in their own zone, but in the neutral zone as well. They took 6 penalties, gave up 2 power play goals. They only had 2 or 3 power plays themselves. They were outshot, I think, 38-24 or something. In shot attempts, it was like 108-44 or something. They honestly got outplayed. Florida was honestly the better hockey team for probably the entire game. But Rangers came out on top. Obviously they got short on the goal. He had 2 from Barclay Goodrow. Barclay Goodrow had 4 goals in the regular season. He had 6 in the postseason. He's always been like that. He's always been the guy in the regular season. He's just kind of there just to back check. He's a very good defensive forward, good penalty killer, but won't score a whole lot. And in the playoffs, all of a sudden, the dude's scoring goes left and right. He had a lot of big goals for Tampa Bay Lightning on both of their Stanley Cup final runs. I'll put it to you this way: his first game back in Tampa with the Rangers, he got a standing ovation. Barclay Goodrow was like a third line. Who's a third line guy? Very rarely does a third line guy spend not her incredible amount of time with a team, leave, sign, get traded, sign with another team, and his first game back gets a complete standing ovation. Like basically the entire opposing stadium standing up and applauding him as he's on the bench for another team playing against them. Because a third line player. I get it if the guy was like a star player, was there for 10 years, or maybe he had like the game-winning goal in the Stanley Cup to win, like something like that the year before, and now he leaves. This guy was a third line player for a few years for them, but he had just so many big goals from in the playoffs that his first game back in Tampa, there was like basically like thank you for all those big goals and helping us win 2 short Stanley Cups. And of course, they got to the third, lost a couple years ago to Colorado, the Cup final, when they went third 30 when they beat the Rangers 2 years ago in the conference finals. And he's one of those guys, in the regular season, he's just kind of status quo, solid bomb 6 forward, good penalty killer, good defender, very good defensive forward, but won't give you a whole lot, of goal scoring. Like he only had 4 goals this year. In the playoffs, he's just phenomenal. On top of what he does on the back end, on top of what he does on the penalty kill, the guy is really clutch. He's got 6 goals this postseason. I saw some random person tweet out like, who on Florida slept with his wife? But the dude's just going crazy. And so I saw someone else tweet out like, when he only has like 1 goal on the 43rd game of the next season, just remember once the playoffs come out, he's about to have like 10 more. So the guy's just a gamer. Like the guy, I call him a gamer. Maybe in the regular season, it's like random games in the long regular season. He's not doing a whole lot. He's doing some little things. He'll play defense. He'll penalties. But once a whole lot out, the playoffs come around, he's one of your best forwards. He's scoring goals, killing penalties, playing both ends. He's phenomenal. So Rangers take that one, and then yesterday, Dallas Stars beat the Oilers 5-3. That was a crazy game in the first period. Oilers were up 2-0, and they outshot Dallas 10-3. Second period, Dallas completely flipped the switch. One point they're out shooting Edmonton like 12-0 in that period. Dallas went up, scored three goals in that period. Oilers were able to get one at the end of the period to tie it though. And the third period came along and Dallas got two. They scored a goal. Jason Robinson had a hat trick. And it's crazy. He's one of the best players, but he hadn't really been scoring really all postseason. All of a sudden, he just comes up and has a random hat trick. And he scored kind of like he banked in off Skinner from like a weird angle, like in the middle of the period, and then they got an empty net goal late. So Dallas wins 5-3 in a back and forth game. They take a 2-1 series lead. So after dropping game at home, they got a split at home, winning game 2, and they took the first one to Edmonton. So both series were 2 games apiece. Dallas leading and New York Rangers leading in their respective conferences. On to the NBA playoffs. On Saturday, Boston came from behind to beat the Indiana Pacers 114-111. Take a 3-0 series lead, 36-10-8 from Jason Tatum. Indiana was up by 18 at one point. I was going to have Halliburton in the game, but they blew an 18-point lead. Once again, Rick Carlisle didn't call a timeout late in the game when he should have to advance the ball. I don't know why he made that mistake again. Nembhard 32 and 9 assists in the loss. Then on Sunday, the Dallas Mavericks defeated the Minnesota Timberwolves 116-107 to take Game 3. Also, they won game while they stole Game 2 out of that crazy comeback, and Luka hit the game winner. Right in Rudy Gobert's face. And then Luka had 33, 7, and 5 steals in this game, 26, 9, and 9 from Anthony Edwards. So that gave Dallas a 3-0 series lead. And then last night, the Boston Celtics beat the Indiana Pacers 105-102 to finish up a series sweep. Of course, no Tyrese Halliburton once again for Indiana. 26-13-8 for Jason Tatum, 24 and 10 assists for Allen Nembhard. Indiana, they had a great year. They had won a playoff series since 2014. They went to the Eastern Conference Finals. Obviously, they got a little bit lucky. In the first round, Milwaukee did not have Giannis for the entire series in Dame for games 4 and 5. But still, Milwaukee probably should have won the series, to be honest. And they were a frozen team the whole year, and Indiana beat them. Just game against the Knicks. South Knicks still with a ton of injuries. Already didn't have Julius Randle, and Mitchell Robinson got hurt right before the series. Bogdanovich, another key bench piece, was hurt in the series prior. And then OG Anunoby, who was having a career night, goes down in Game 2. He's obviously a big piece of what they do. And then Brunson, who got nicked up in Game 2, then came back and finished up a win in Game 2. He gets hurt in Game 7. At one point, the Knicks only had, for most of the series, only had 7 players, and they only had 5 players for the last quarter and a half of that Game 7. But still, Indiana played great. Halliburton, for a 5 out of 7 game, was an absolute dog, and all these other guys like Pascal Siakam and Miles Turner and Aaron Nembhard, all these guys stepped up. But couldn't finish against Boston. They were up, late in that game in that fourth quarter against Boston. They were up at one point like 8 points pretty late in that fourth quarter. A lot of bad turnovers late in that game, and then, not calling a timeout with 10 seconds up by 3 to advance the ball. And then you turn over on the inbound. Siakam dropped the inbound pass from Nembhard. Was, defended well by Brown. And you give up the 3 to Brown with 6 seconds left, and then you don't draw up a good enough play. You had like almost 6 seconds, which is a lot of time when you have as many weapons as they do. And of course, you lose in overtime. Then you get blown out in Game 2. Halliburton gets hurt. In Game 3, you're up 18 and you blow it. And you lose. And even in this game, they're up like 8 with like a couple of minutes left in this game. Probably like 2.5 minutes ago, they're up by like 8. And again, with the lead slip away, let Boston back into the game. Again, some lack of adjustments and sloppy play, and they let Boston back into the game. Of course, you had a down the stretches, not good possessions, not good shot selection, and you give the freaking Derek White with like 40 seconds left, and then they weren't able to get another basket, and you end up losing by 3. Also, Boston had the ball with like 20 seconds left. I don't mind them not fouling there, because if you give up 2 free throws, now you're down by 5 with 15 or 20 seconds left, one timeout. It's do or die. Obviously, it doesn't look great for you. So, it's one of the things. All right, if you get a stop, all right, call a timeout, advance the ball, try and get a game tying 3. If you can't do that, or you give up a basket, the game's over anyway. Their season's over anyway. You might as well try and get a stop. And again, if you give up 2 free throws, you're probably going to lose anyway. you're going to lose anyway. So they'll try and get a stop, and they got a stop, but then didn't get the rebound. And at that point, there's only 4 seconds left. All Boston has to do is play keep away, and the clock runs out. But still, like, that game was tied with like a minute and a half or so left. You had 3 or 4 possessions, just not good possessions. Contested pull-up threes early in the shot clock, just not good. And then obviously give the throw to Derek White. I think it was like 43 seconds left or something like that. But so Indiana, I mean, they didn't have Halliburton out in the last 2 games. They gotta get better defensively. They weren't good defensively all year. Even the playoffs, it was really just how good they were offensively, and the teams they played had some injuries, and they got a rematch in this series against Boston when they got to the conference finals. They gotta get better defensively. So to me, they still need a closer. Like Halliburton's a phenomenal player. Obviously, he's a very talented offensive guy, but not really a closer. Even Siakam's a great player, but is he a closer? I don't know. And then you have a lot of these other role players who are very good. Miles Turner, Aaron Nemhard, Ben Mulford back next year. Even Obi Toppin's a solid bench. I don't think he'll ever become a star by any means. Everyone thought he was when the Knicks traded him, but he's the same guy he was in New York, but he's a good player. Aaron Neese was another nice piece. And by the way, Siakam will definitely be back with the Pacers. They give up 3 first-round picks for him. You don't give up that much for a guy. For team at the time was the 6th seed in the Eastern Conference and remain the 6th seed the rest of the way. 3 first-round picks with a young team like that, and you go, oh yeah, maybe I'll Cinderella run and win a championship. If it gets the championship, great. If not, all right, we're going to let him leave. He will be back in Indiana. They can work from the most money. He's happy there. He'll be back in Indiana. Same thing with OG Anunoby moved to New York next. That's the NHL and NBA playoffs. The Seattle Kraken defend a new head coach is Dan Blisma. He's actually been their AHL coach. They're going to promote him to head coach. I think it's a good hire. He won a Stanley Cup back in 2009 with the Pittsburgh Penguins. They didn't have a ton of playoff success after that, but he was there for 6 years. They went to the playoffs every single year he was there, won a cup in 2009. He has not been a coach since they fired him 7 years ago, but he's an experienced coach. He's been with the team's AHL squad. They're actually in the Calder Cup right now, which is like the AHL finals or something like that. So he's had success in Pittsburgh, won a Stanley Cup there. He's had success in the AHL with Seattle. He's been an assistant. I think this is a good hire. This is a Seattle team's obviously still very young. This is only going to be their 4th season as an NHL team next year. Obviously, they are a recent expansion team. Of course, 2 years ago, only their 2nd year as a team, they made the playoffs and upset the defending champs, Colorado Avalanche, in the first round of the playoffs. This year, took a step back, missing the playoffs. I would say their first year was kind of as expected. They were the 2nd worst team in the West. They had a very young team. They were like Vegas, where they just went after all these veterans and put themselves in a position to win right away. Of course, they were in the Cup final in their first year as a team. They've been in the playoffs almost every single year. Of course, they won the Stanley Cup final last year. They won a Cup last year, only their 6th year as a team. And but Seattle, they took a different approach. They didn't take as many big contracts. Took a lot more like younger players. And so obviously the first year weren't very good, but I thought they overachieved in their 2nd year. I thought they were going to be a competitive team, compete for a playoff spot, but would probably come up just short. End up getting into the playoffs. You upset Colorado in 7 games in that first round. Then you lose in the conference semifinals. This year, I thought they underachieved. I thought they had a shot to be possibly a top 5 team in the Western Conference. I thought they were really good. A team that's, a young team that's only that now got a taste of the playoffs, won a playoff series. And now you add more pieces. All these young guys have another year of experience. I thought this could be a very good team. I think I have them benched like 4th or 5th in the conference. I was very high on them this year. It was actually a very big disappointment. Being like the 4th worst team in the Western Conference, something like that. So they overachieved last year. Underachieved this year. They got rid of Dave Haxtell. He's never thought he was that special when he was just in Philly. He was just okay in Seattle. And they bring in who I think is a better coach in Dan Blisma. And the Winnipeg Jets also promoted Scott Arniel to be their head coach. So Arniel's been around for a while. He played in the NHL for a bit. He's been an assistant in the league for a while. He started as an assistant back in 2002 with Buffalo. He was there for 4 years. Then he went to the AHL team with Vancouver. Next won an AHL title back in 2009. Then in 2010, Columbus hired him as a head coach. Wasn't there long, only there for a year and a half. So he wasn't great. But then in 2012, right after he was fired, Vancouver brought him back to be the AHL coach. But then a year later, when their head coach Alain Vigneault left to take the head coach up with the New York Rangers, Vigneault brought him with him to be his top assistant. Then when Vigneault got fired after 2018, Arniel also was fired. They Rangers fired the whole staff that year. Right away was picked up by the Washington Capitals because their top assistant coach Lane Lampert left to go take the same job with the Islanders after Barry Trotz. They didn't renew his contract, and they let him go after winning the Cup final. He took the head coach of the Islanders. He took Lampert with him. So Washington needed a new top assistant for their new coach and another assistant they had previously, Todd Reardon at the time. So they brought in Scott Arniel to be their assistant. And then the last couple of years, he has been the assistant coach to Rick Bowness in Winnipeg, and he was promoted to be their head coach. I think it's a pretty good hire. He's been an assistant coach for a long time. He had success in the AHL. As an AHL, he's been an assistant for a while. He was in Buffalo for 4 years. Then he was, with Vancouver for a while. He's with, was there for like 5 or 6 years, with the Rangers for like 5 or 6 years. We coached with Alain Vigneault for a solid 10, 12 years. He was with the Washington Capitals for a few years. He's been with Winnipeg the last couple of years, so he knows all the players, knows the organization. Winnipeg's a team, it's like, kind of what do you do now? You have a lot of vets on my team. A lot of guys have big contracts, and they have not been able to get over the hump for in a while now. So I'm not sure what you do. You just extending Connor Hellebuyck and a lot of these guys. It's a big deal. So you already can't blow it up yet, but I think he deserves another shot. That the Columbus team that he had in 2010 this level was not good. He's been in the system he's worked with some good coaches like Alain Vigneault, things like that. Rick Bowness is another good coach that he recently worked with. He's worked with a lot of really good players in New York, in Vancouver. He also got to work with Alex Ovechkin in Washington. In Vancouver, he had the Sedin twins, a lot of really good players. Rick Luongo at one point. The Rangers, he worked with a lot of really good players as well. And now he's obviously worked with this team Winnipeg the last couple of years. So I think it's a pretty good hire. They clearly didn't. Also, Rick Bowness, they didn't fire him. He just retired. I think he might have actually been voted as coach of the year. So he retired. He wasn't fired. So clearly they didn't want a super huge change because of how subtle it was. Rick Bowness leaving. Just not too long after they were eliminated, he decided to retire. So they decided to promote Arniel. I think for where they are right now, this is a pretty good hire. But otherwise, moving on. So it was announced that colleges can pay players directly. So that there's also a lawsuit. The NCAA lost a lawsuit. $2.7 billion, and you can pay players directly. I'm not sure how I feel about this, to be honest. So you already got NIL. You've had that the last few years. Obviously has its benefits. It's got its cons as well. They're paying players directly. So you're telling me you're going to be paying, you're going to have 17, 18-year-olds coming right out of high school, basically having contracts? Like the whole term of amateurism, or if you're an amateur athlete, you can't actually get paid yet because that defeats the point of an amateur. That is now just gone. It doesn't exist anymore at this point. To me, you're giving 17, 18-year-olds who might be really entitled, if you're getting the full scholarship, you might not have, you might not be, that could lead to a sense of entitlement. And they're going to give them possibly millions of dollars. I don't know. It one of those things, it's got to be, if it's monitored correctly, and you have the repercussions in place, things go wrong, maybe it works. Maybe it'll be a new era of college sports that really works. But if it gets out of hand, it could be really dangerous. And that's something we definitely want to avoid. You know, to me, it really benefits the schools that like basically print monies. Programs like, looking through it from a football perspective, Alabama and Georgia and Ohio State and LSU and Clemson. But those schools like, Washington State and Coastal Carolina and schools like that aren't just printing money left and right. They're not, throwing out money to all these top recruits. These D2 and D3 schools, it's gonna hurt them to me. And yeah, but the Major League Baseball school, they just won a game to advance to like the D3 championship. In 2 days from now, the school is closing. The school does not exist anymore, and they're playing in like the D3 national championship. The day after tomorrow, the school is done. It will no longer be a university or school, or whatever the hell it is. I don't even know the name of it, to be honest. And now you're just letting teams pay players. To me, it's not just like the Division One schools this the top Division One schools: Alabama, Georgia, Ohio State. Those schools is who benefits. Like Washington State's, it does not benefit them. I don't see how Washington State or Arizona State is getting any benefit. So Oregon State, another one, who just teammate, they're trying to stay low to the Pac-12, one of the only two schools along Washington has, and now they're trying to combine with the Mountain West. Does nothing for them. So I don't understand this. The NCAA, I don't know what to say about them at this point. They're just a joke of an organization. They have no backbone whatsoever. They don't care. For as many smart people as I suppose we have in the organization, how they keep just losing, just case after case after case. They drag the NIL thing, down the road. They kick that can down the road for years and years until Congress always said, yeah, you can't do that anymore. You have to allow us. They're like, oh, okay. Fine. And then, now that they lose this, they lost the case now, like the thing with transfers. Like they just keep, taking hit after hit after hit. It's like in a boxing match, when the guy's like out on their feet, like they didn't actually fall to the ground yet, and the referee's supposed to like step in, like stop hitting him, because like the guy who's punching him, he's a trained boxer, doesn't realize when he's in the heat of the moment that the guy's out. He just thinks, oh, the guy's having trouble blocking him. I'm just gonna keep hitting until I knock the guy out. So the referee pushes him away. So, oh no, the fight's over. You won. It's like that, except there's no referee. So people are just gonna keep punching and keep punching. Or if they're knocked out, they just haven't physically fallen to the ground yet because you keep punching them. That's what they are. Meanwhile, they're a $1 billion organization. So don't understand that. Rest in peace to Bill Walton. He passed away yesterday. He had a prolonged battle with cancer. He was a great basketball player. He was one of the greatest college players of all time. He won 3 national championships at UCLA. He was also a 3-time Player of the Year for college basketball. They had 44 points in the national championship game, I think, 1973. That remained a record for the Division I college basketball national championship. Still, all these years later, he went to the NBA. Injuries kind of hampered him a little bit, but he still ended up having a Hall of Fame career. He was a rookie. I think he was not rookie year. He was a Finals MVP in 1977 with Portland. He was 6th man of the year in '86 with the Boston Celtics. Was also an NBA champion that year. So he won 2 championships. Was 6th man of the year. Was a Finals MVP. And he still had a Hall of Fame career, despite his career being cut short because of a lot of foot injuries. Didn't play the first couple years in the NBA because of chronic problems. Still had an incredible career. Then just became an incredibly eccentric broadcaster. Obviously, is known as a deadhead of course, the famous rock and roll band, the Grateful Dead. He's as big as a fan of them as it gets. Became very famous for that. Obviously, a very, very interesting guy. As eccentric as it gets. Everyone loved Bill Walton. He covered basketball games for years and years and years. He covered the NBA, NBA Finals. March Madness college basketball. He worked for ESPN. Obviously, him and Dave Pax worked together for a long time, doing college basketball. And absolute living legend, the rest of peace to him. And also, want to say, get well soon, Raul Acuna. He tore the ACL. He's out for the season. One of those guys that's really can't catch a break. Last year, he had a historic year last year, winning National League MVP for the Atlanta Braves. Having a 40-70 season unheard of, never happened before. 40 home runs and 70 steals. Also had like 100 RBIs. And hit like 330 in the process, too. Just a season we may never see again. He's the guy, he's gotten the short end several times. In 2020, it was a pandemic shortened year, so he also season was only 60 games. In 2021, he tore his ACL in like May of that season. In the middle of the year, called from the rest of the year, and the Braves actually went on to win the World Series without him. 2022, he missed the first 2 weeks of the season, coming from that injury, and he couldn't play the after the first. So he kind of was like playing catch up the whole year. Then last year was MVP of the league, just an incredible year. Now this year, before May was even over towards ACL, was out for the year. He was leading off second. It looked like he started and stopped. Like he was thinking about stealing, and knees kind of buckled with non-contact. It didn't look great, and unfortunately, the results came back saying he's a torn ACL and he's out for the year. So unfortunately, can't catch a break. I can't stand the Braves. I'm not even the biggest Acuna fan, to be honest, but he's an incredible player. He's great for the game of baseball, and it's unfortunate he's had yet another season getting the injury. Speaking of baseball, I got to talk about the New York Mets. This team is pitiful. Absolutely pitiful. What are they, 22-30, 21-30? They are horrible. I know I just talked about this last week, but I don't get how this team, with this supposed firepower in the lineup, is this bad. P. Alonso, I talked about this with Neil. I had Neil on the show. What was it, Thursday or something of last week? Whatever day it was. I've tried to defend him. People, have, bitched about him. And they think he's corny. They think he's on a later. I think he was causing a problem in the clubhouse. I was telling people, I don't agree with you. He's a great player. He's had one little cold stretch. I think he's a very good leader, a fine leader. I think, I don't think he's having a problem in the clubhouse. I still don't see it, to be honest. But I'm running out of arguments for him. In 2019, he had a historically great rookie year, 53 home runs, most ever, 120 plus RBIs. Also, the pandemic year, he struggled a little bit, but 60 game season, that was a weird year for everybody. 2020 had a good year. I think he had like 37 homers and 90-something RBIs, something like that. He had a very good year. Nothing there what he did in 2019, but in 2022 had a phenomenal year, hit like 270, had 40 home runs and 130 RBI, was an MVP candidate. But last year, he had 46 home runs and 117 RBIs, but he only hit 217. His slugging percent was pretty solid, as was his OPS, and even his on-base percentage. He's never been the biggest on-base guy. The guy, hits a lot of home runs, drives balls into the gap, obviously. But he was a guy, for most of April, the guy was hitting the cover up the ball, was really the only guy really hitting on one play in April. From like the end of April until basically the All-Star break, he was hitting like 190. He couldn't get out of his own way, to the point where the Mets were like thinking about, should we trade this guy? Only had another year on his deal. They were blowing up a team at the trade deadline. But then after the All-Star break, he found himself and he kind of caught fire a little bit. But still, he only hit 217. And then this year, right now, he's hitting like 240. He's got like 12 or 13 home runs, but he's only driven in like, I don't even think he has 30 RBIs right now. Slugging, OPS, on base is all very low for him. He's never been a good defender at first base. The Mets offered him 7 years, $158 million. In the offseason. That's fight. I'm really bad at math. That's something like, I think like a little over $22 million a year. And if he went out and had another one of those things where he hit 270 with 40 bombs, yes, he could have gotten more than $22 million a year and $158 million on the open market. But if he doesn't pick up, he's not going to get that. He's going to be 29 years. He's going to be 29 years old at the end of the season. If come trade deadline, the Mets are out of the race, which I don't see how this team is making the playoffs. I've said it since the beginning. When I did my MLB preview, I had them at 73 wins, fourth place in the division. I told people I don't expect anything from them. This team isn't that good. Let's start off 0-5. You know, I said the season's over. I called out David Stearns for not necessarily for what he did in the offseason. He actually, if you look at it, he actually did a good job. The only moves that didn't work out were Joey Wendell, who ended up being a liability, but you paid him $3 million for 1 year, and Adrian Hauser, who he picked up in a trade, but you also got Tyrone Taylor in that trade, and he's actually been a solid fourth outfielder for them. So, and he didn't give up a lot. Didn't give up a lot either. So, and everything else has worked out. Like he signed Severino for a year. Severino's actually surprisingly had a good year, and he's bounced back. I was talking about this. I'm not sure if you guys know my friend Jacob. I've mentioned him before. He came on Jake and Justin in the Morning years ago. This is like when Justin and I were doing that, like still over Zoom, like our first year we were doing it. He was one of the earlier guests on that show. We did that show on and off for 3 years or so. A couple of years, freshman year we started doing it, and then we were pretty consistent through our second year. Our junior year did sparingly. We also the final squad kind of replaced it this year. So on and off for 3 years overall, and he was on like that first. I think he ended up he had like in total 5 seasons, but like first 3 seasons we had like a lot of episodes. Season 4 only had a couple of episodes, and the season 5 only had like 1 or 2. She was like season 1. So I'm not sure if you guys remember him. He's a Yankee fan, and he even said like he had a lot of potential, but injuries kind of killed him. He was out for him. Showman Nias, guy he signed for 2 years. He's overall been good. You go to the offensive side. Taylor's been okay. I've actually been a decent trade pickup as a fourth outfielder. Even Harrison Bader's been a good pickup. He's there for his defense. He actually hasn't hit horribly. He's actually hitting like 270, 280 right now. So, that hasn't been necessarily a bad move. So most of it, Jay Martinez is hitting 300. So, I called on this for trying to shove down our throats that we expect to be a good team and make the playoffs and be very competitive. Like it's not your fault. But what Billy Epler did to this team needs to be studied by scientists. He put them in a horrible hole. But don't, field this team together. Put this team together. Do what you did. Hold off on the big free agents. Just sign guys to 1-year prove-it deals, basically, and go out there, and focus on, developing your prospects and strengthening the AAA team more than the major league team, which is fine. They're finally going into the retooling phase they should have been in years ago. They're finally not, building a team with a bunch of old guys and actually trying to focus on player development. If they got to the World Series with 15, they just said, "Oh, let's bring in a bunch of old guys," and they did it for years, and finally when it didn't work, they finally realized, "Oh, this isn't going to work." Because he had an owner, Steve Cohen, who actually cared, regardless of how well or not so well the money that he spent is gone, and the lack of success they've had since he took over the team. To be honest, but I was not concerned about like the fact that you said, "Oh yeah, we're gonna." I was like, dude, this is New York. Be honest with me. If you told me, yeah, this is a transition year, but we expect to be competitive, like say that. None of us want to hear. I don't want to hear that. But I at first I'd be like, you gotta be kidding me, right? You suffered enough. We've won one playoff game, and since we went to the World Series in 2015, it was 9 years ago. But then after like I'm about a few minutes later, I'll be like, you know what? At least got it straight with me. At least they finally have a good farm system. You have some prospects who could debut this year, like Luis Angel Acuna, Christian Stott's in the rotation right now. Could we see Blake Tidwell eventually? Could we see Drew Gilbert eventually? So, I called him out. I called him out last week for just being terrible. Like Francisco Lindor should be embarrassed. What are you doing? The count's 3-2. He just like stood there. So go, I didn't pick up the curveball. Like, what are you doing, dude? And I've tried to defend Lindor. Obviously, his first year he was terrible. Rubbed a lot of us the wrong way. even in his second year, he was hitting like 230 in June. I tried to people relax. He's had good moments this year. Give him a chance. And the rest of the year, he was phenomenal. Last year, he got off to a tough start. One point around this time of year, he was hitting like 205 or 680 OPS. In fact, I actually called him out. I think on Twitter, I was like, he's the guy got his head, his backside. Like, and then the rest of the year, he was a beast. He finished hitting like 32, 33 homers, 90 plus RBIs. Should have won a Gold Glove. Should have been an All Star. And he was named like to the first team All MLB team at the end of the year. So like he starts so much of a year. Like I said, he hit in 2022 when he had probably his best years. Man, he had what 32 and 107, whatever it was. Hit like 270, 280. Played great defensively. Stole 20 plus bases. He was hitting like 230 in like June. Last year, he had a very good year last year. He hit pretty much his league at what he does for the batting average. He had 30 plus home runs. He had like over 90 RBIs. Played Gold Glove caliber defense at shortstop. But he was hitting 200. He was barely hitting 200 in like late May, early June. And yes, I know, we're still at that point in late May. He usually doesn't turn it on until about now. But he's hitting 190. The guy's hitting 190. He's giving up on at bats. Like, what are you doing? He's on a $330 million contract. And look, like you look, all right, Almar didn't return to the play that we thought. He had that one really good year in Cleveland. Then the next year he fell off a cliff and they traded him last year. Ended up trading him to the Dodgers where he finished up the year as kind of like a role player. Now he's in Tampa. He's having a good year in Tampa. Obviously, it doesn't help Cleveland. Like you have Andres Hernandez, who a couple years ago also had a great year. Then last year he kind of took a step back, but now he's playing well again this year. We also have two prospects. We got to talk about, are we sure the Mets didn't win the trade? Are we sure the Mets didn't lose the trade? Like he was a better player in Cleveland. Like he's got to get going. Like, look, he's overall his first year he was terrible. So he picked up in like August, but at that point that Mets team was so just dysfunctional. And was that team just completely collapsed in the second half of the year. The only reason they were in first place for 3 months was because their division was just absolutely horrible that year. You let teams like the Braves and Phillies stay in the division race the whole year. That team wasn't that good. You completely collapsed. He was terrible. 2 years ago, he had a great year. Yes, he was a little bit inconsistent through the first 2 months or so, but he wasn't bad. And in the final 4 months, dude was the typical stud that he is. Last year, he had a really good year. Yes, the first 2 months he struggled. He was only hitting like 205 or so, with 680 OPS. In June. But after that, the dude was a stud, as he's supposed to be. And if he picks him, maybe he'll pick it up. I don't know. Just about the time he does, he's starting to play a little better, but still, the guy's hitting 190, and the Mets aren't playing well. Just a really bad look. And at some point we have to realize, like, look, I want to say he hasn't lived up to his contract. He makes $33 million a year. I think the last 2 years have been $33 million years. But still, like, has he been, the guy that's going to lead them to a championship? I don't know. I think the guy who was in Cleveland, honestly, no. He's honestly better at Cleveland, to be honest. But he's got to wake up. And Jeff McNeil's hitting 220. His first year he came up, he looked really good. The guy was hitting 330, looked like a plus defender. He had a great year in his second year with the Mets. Then 21, he didn't have a good year. Tried to become a home run hitter. In 2022, he went back to being like that slap hitter, and he won a batting title. He wasn't great last year. He's been bad again this year. Ever since he got the $4 million extension, he's kind of just fallen off. I'm starting to think he's like one of those utility players. Luis Angel Acuna is lighting it up at AAA. He's a guy who he can't play short because you have Francisco Lindor under contract for like 6 more years. And when the guy is right, he's obviously arguably the best shortstop in the game. So you can't really put him at third because you have Mark Vientos and Brett Beatty, over there. Beatty started to pick it up hit it a little better. Vientos has obviously been great since he came back up. So there isn't a room there. Plus, you have Ryan Mauricio come back next year, and he's flashed a lot of potential late last year. If he was helped, he didn't get hurt in the Winter League, he'd probably be the RFA third baseman opening day. You think, all right, he can also play center field, but once Harrison Bader leaves next year, I assume they're going to move Brandon Nimmo back to center field next year. He's got by second. And unless McNeil turns back into that batting champion from 2 years ago, it's hard to see where he fits on this team. Unless if you're, to me, Vientos and Mauricio should be in the opening day roster lineup next year. So you got DH one of them, so you can't even DH McNeil. Yeah, the other one's going to play third. Acuna's going to be at second. Lindor will be at short. So there's no spot for him. Maybe move him to the outfield. He's played left field before, but he's not an outfielder. Guess they might have a spot out there, but Drew Gilbert's going to probably be here next year at some point. That'll probably be where he goes. You still have Marte for another year. I don't think you'll be able to trade Marte with his contract. So, so he doesn't have a future long term. So I think they should obviously look to trade him. I've said for years I think Alonso's going to be a forever man, but now I'm thinking are we sure they shouldn't trade him? I don't know. So it's terrible all around. And Beatty isn't Alfie Alvarez is hurt. Nimmo hasn't hit the way he should this year. Marte has been terrible, just as bad as was last year before the injuries. Also have JD Martinez, who just got here. Only the guys that are already had, and Harrison Bader. That's about it. And then Francisco Alvarez has obviously been on the IL for a while. Finish out. Let's talk about King and Queen in the Ring. I'm going to recap Monday Night Raw some point this week, hopefully tomorrow. Women's Tag Team Championship. Actually, never mind. Not tomorrow, because tomorrow I'm going to be I won't be here, so no podcast tomorrow. Most likely. Women's Tag Team Championship was Bianca Belair and Jay Cargill. They defeated Candice LeRae and Indy Hartwell on the kickoff show. The match was just okay. I mean, it's the kickoff show. There's a reason it was on the kickoff show. Then we had the Women's World Championship. Becky Lynch against Liv Morgan. Liv Morgan defeated Becky Lynch to win the title. Crazy match. At one point, Dom Mysterio came out. Of course, he's obviously very close with Rhea Ripley, his Judgment Day member, and of course, he's referred to as his mommy. And Rhea told him, don't let Liv Morgan get my title because Liv Morgan injured her in the first place. And he came out when Becky was in the disarm her, distracted Becky, and then let Liv Morgan stealing the victory and stealing the Women's World Championship. I've said in the past that I don't get I don't see with Liv Morgan. I think she's overrated. I don't think they should push her, but we need a Liv versus Rhea feud. That has to be the feud. You can't not do that. Now with Dom playing both sides, basically, this is going to be absolute cinema. That was absolutely the right move. Also, I don't know what was Becky Lynch wearing. It looked like a freaking sailor. In the Intercontinental title, Sami Zayn like a Chad Gable and Bronson Reed. Sami Zayn wins. That was an incredible match. Oh my god. Sami Zayn hit the blue thunderbolt on Bronson Reed. Chad Gable suplexed the both of them at one time. Saw Sami Zayn came out in a Saudi Arabia typical outfit. Incredible entrance. That was a great match. And then in the Queen of the Ring Finals, Lyra Valkyria against Nia Jax. Nia Jax wins. Incredible ending. It was a good match. Incredible ending. Valkyria was trying to powerbomb her off the turnbuckle, and then Nia just goes into a very fierce annihilator, squashes Valkyria to win the Queen of the Ring. She was very emotional. When she won. A lot of people don't like Nia Jax. Her first hit in WWE, I admit, wasn't pretty. She wasn't great. But she was low out of shape. I mean, she's a big woman. That's the whole thing with her. But she wasn't in great shape. And she caused a lot of problems. But she's had a really good run since she came back. She's got herself into legitimately. Obviously, she's still big. I mean, she's her famous move is the Annihilator. Her nickname is the Ears just before. She's got to be somewhat big and strong. Got herself into legit good shape, and she's on a really good run. She's had a long battle. Being with WWE. She was at one point she was up the top. Then she lost it. Got let go. She got fired. Now she's come back and she's made a really good impact. She's become a much better wrestler. She's a very, very good heel. Now she'll be a little annoying at time when she's screaming during in the ring, but overall she's become a very good worker and a very good wrestler. And Gunther against Randy Orton. Gunther defeated Randy Orton to win the title, the King of the Ring. Honestly, you saw Randy Orton's show was up. Triple H alluded to they could have a rematch. So we'll see where that goes. The undisputed WWE Champion Cody Rhodes defeat Logan Paul to retain. That was such an amazing match. That spot with Michael Cole, that was hilarious, incredible. Could Corey Graves fight him because he stuck up for Cole? Maybe you have McAfee find him if McAfee sticks up for Cole again. Shot when he had the drone show him and he was jerking the prime and he hit the 450 splash from the top rope through the announce table to Cody Rhodes was absolutely incredible. Phenomenal match. And overall, it was a really good pay-per-view. The Saudi Arabian crowd was great. And that was a great PLE overall. All right, that's all I got for you guys today. Until next time, so long. Have a great day.